Welcome back to another episode of the Personal Collection. Today, we're going to be talking with Shawn Herring, who collects Denver Broncos cards. It is football season, so I made sure to bring on the first football guest, one of many, the next few months. So, welcome to the show, Shawn.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Ryan.
No problem. So, you are based out of Utah, but you mostly collect Denver Broncos. So, you must be a huge fan of the team. When did you start becoming a fan?
I grew up a Bronco fan. My dad was a Bronco fan. I've lived in Utah most of my life, and we don't have a professional football team here. So I couldn't choose the Cowboys. I didn't want to choose the Raiders. And so I just, grew up kind of following after my dad. And my whole family is mandatory Bronco fans around here. So
Now, is that mostly everyone in Utah, or do they have their own specific teams that people go after?
you see a lot of Bronco fans. You see a lot of 49er fans because of Steve Young and the BYU days. But you do see a lot of Bronco fans around here. So I'd say between Broncos and Niners, maybe a little mix of Cowboys in there, but a lot of Denver fans. They're smart.
Nice. So who's your favorite Broncos player?
All-time favorite Broncos player. This may surprise people. It is Tim Tebow. I love Tim Tebow. So if I can count that as a favorite Broncos player of all time, I'm going to put him high up in that list. So that may cause some issues, some heartburn with people. But no, I go back to the John Elway days. Shannon Sharp. I love Shannon Sharp, still do. And I've been through all the last 20 quarterbacks since Elway.
You have any predictions for this season?
Last year, I said this last year after the last couple of years have been rough, but I said this year we will win 10 or 11 games and make the playoffs with Drew Lock as a starter. And I'm going to stick by that. And I still think Drew Lock at the end of the year will be the starter. But I do feel like the Broncos, with that top 5 defense and a really talented offense, will make the playoffs with 10 or 11 wins.
Bridgewater is starting right now. So you think Lock is going to come in probably in a few days, or not a few days, but a few games, and then take over that role?
I thought Drew Lock coming out of the preseason was the clear-cut winner. I think he's got he's got a high ceiling. I don't think we've seen that ceiling yet. So I don't have a problem with Teddy Bridgewater. We've won 2 games in a row against the bottom teams, and we've got another game this weekend against another bottom team. So I think when we start hitting that AFC West opponent, Teddy may run into some issues. And, it's a long season, so you never know with injuries. But I feel like Drew Lock has a lot to prove, and I do see him at some point this season being the starter and riding into the playoffs.
I feel like that's the hardest thing with all these young QBs right now too. I mean, Tua just got hurt this past week. Who else just got injured? It was one or two other guys that got hurt, and I know everyone was talking about it all over Twitter. Can't remember.
Tua got hurt. The glass, the walking fragile glass. Carson Wentz got hurt. There's been a lot of young struggles in the quarterback position this year with first and second year guys. So a lot of growing pains. They get 20 years ago, you maybe sat behind a quarterback for a year or so, and anymore you're thrown right to the wolves. Zach Wilson's prime example, just getting tossed in there, not the greatest talent around him, and got to show what you can do. You got to live to see another day. But a lot of good quarterbacks, though. So young, inexperienced, but good.
Yeah, and I feel like with the hobby right now, everyone always goes towards those quarterbacks. I mean, if you sit 1 year, people are going to forget about you. And I think it was Mahomes that sat his first year. Imagine taking that philosophy back to that first year. If hobby back to Mahomes' first year, people would be calling him a bust just because he's sitting behind a quarterback. You have Aaron Rodgers, same thing. I mean, he sat behind Favre, 2 years or 3 years?
Yeah. Yep.
Right? I mean, his cards would have bottom out. People would call him a bust just because he barely played or didn't even play at all. I don't know. I didn't really follow Favre, obviously Rodgers back then, but it's kind of interesting where the hobby just expects immediate returns. The first game in the NFL, right now I'm seeing people call Lawrence a bust because he lost his first 2 games. And it's like, guys, you have to give these players a chance. It's even like the same in baseball with Wander Franco. I made a video on my channel saying not to buy the first Bowman Chroma Wander Franco because how many are out there. But the thing is, like, you're not going to go out of the gate, knock out a home run or 2 immediately. Players take time to develop in a league. So people need to give these guys a chance, even after a season. If they had a bad first season, give them a little bit more time, a little more leeway, because player development is much more than just getting thrown into your first or second game or third game and trying to catch up. The difference between college or even like the minor leagues in baseball and that professional level is a huge difference. Plus, now you have to deal with the media, all these new fans, and and the big thing which people don't talk about is now access to all this money. Like minor college, you're poor. Now getting thrown these multi-million-dollar contracts, that changes people. So it takes some time to develop.
I always say, especially in football, you got to give a quarterback until year 3. So, and you look at what happened with Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield last year in year 3, and the two just blew up. So I always feel like you got to give a quarterback year 3, and that's why I was high on Drew Lock coming into this year, is because this was year 3, and for the first time, he went through a COVID season, no real preseason or anything last year, and I feel like that year 3 is key. You know what you got with a quarterback in year 3.
Absolutely. So let's start taking a look at some of your PC. Can you show off a few of your cards?
Yeah, I've got a few Bronco things sitting here behind me. You can see kind of one of the shelves. That's all Broncos. I buy a lot of Flawless. I'm a big time Flawless fan. Panini Flawless, and so there's a lot of Flawless up there, and some NFL shields and stuff. And so the majority of that is dedicated to the Broncos back there. But
is that case behind you just modern, or do you also collect some of the vintage players?
So the case directly behind me, as far as football goes, is just modern. Mostly Denver Broncos, pretty much all the Denver Broncos PC. Down lower, there's some modern, all the top QB rookies: Josh Allen, Baker, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes. We've got another shelf just over here that is more of the which way? That way. Back there. Right there. That way.
Which is more all that.
All right, going backwards. Which is more of the Hall of Fame QBs and Hall of Fame players and all that. So I'm going back a little bit more on that other shelf, and a lot of vintage boxing. I love boxing. I've got some, the set of 1938 Churchman graded, and some Cassius Clay rookies and stuff. So I love vintage boxing. Like I mentioned, I love Flawless, and Flawless does some cool stuff with old timer baseball guys with Jackie Robinson patches and some of those type of patches. So a lot of Flawless back there, and a lot of mix of modern cards, but some of them have a vintage spin on them. So
there you go. And might have to bring you back for that vintage boxing, because I collect as well. It's a lot of fun. I mean, you have hundreds of years of history with that as well, like with baseball, cricket, and a bunch of other sports. So you could talk 3 days with that.
Yeah.
So your big guy in that was Cassius Clay. Who else do you collect?
Cassius Clay, and just a bunch of random stuff that people I've never heard of, but it's a cool card. I don't even know who's on the card, but it's 1908, 1902s.
The Ogdens.
What's that?
The 1902 Black Ogdens.
Yep.
Oh, those are so cool.
Some wrestling stuff. I'm staring at a Hulk Hogan auto rookie over there. Just a lot of random stuff. I love the history of it. I don't do a whole lot of vintage baseball cards, but I do love some randomness to my collection. So I've got an Undertaker urn right up there, autographed by the Undertaker. So it just you never know. If I find something cool, it usually ends up in my room here. So
that's a great way to collect. So let's take a look at some of your Broncos cards that you want to show us.
Yeah, so I snagged a couple here. Let's see. I'm going to start with a few that have a little story behind them. So like I mentioned, Flawless, love Flawless. Usually grab a few cases here and there. This was the first booklet that I pulled in a Flawless case, and it happened to be a PC card. So Peyton Manning, number 5 of 7, got the G there. So one day I may go after the entire last name Manning, but gets a little pricey.
And tough too, especially like if you try to get all the booklets.
Yeah, especially the booklets. So I love booklets. That's another kind of side PC is a lot of booklets, and got a few hundred booklets just rolling around. So that's one of my favorites. One of the other things I like is NFL shields. So get that position right. So that's a Cortland Sutton NFL shield 1 of 1 from Flawless rookie. It says Go Broncos on there. I've got a really nice Cortland Sutton PC, and several NFL rookie shields. So I love the full shield, not the little ones, but I love the full shield.
And all on card too. They're great.
On card too. I'm a sticker snob. I'm not a big fan of sticker autos. I may have a few, but I do like the on card.
Yeah, because they actually touch the card rather than just signing a
Right.
sheet and then they apply it later on. It's so much cleaner too.
It is so much cleaner, and half these guys can't stay on sticker, and my OCD doesn't allow that to happen. So, yeah, got to be on card. So, another one, again, these aren't the most expensive, but some of my favorites, Shannon Sharp. He doesn't sign a lot, and so it's hard to get a Shannon Sharp autograph. So that's a graded, what is we graded here? Gem Mint 10 auto of Shannon Sharp, top 5 tight end ever.
And
I just picked that up. It was actually kind of hard to find something reasonable from Shannon. And he just, whatever reason, doesn't sign. So I recently picked that up within the last few months. Pretty happy with that.
it's a great one.
And then, as I mentioned, so I've got 2 here that I want to show. I count it as one card, and I mentioned Tebow before, and so I've got this. They're all signed by Tim. It's not in a Broncos. It's kind of the Bronco color, so I kind of make it work for me. But all signed by Tim. Got the full Tebow nameplate there. So, and my wife. This was courtesy of my wife. She allowed this purchase to happen.
So did someone already have the whole thing complete, or did you ended up hunting them one by one, or what's the story behind that?
This one was complete. So this one was a complete one, and I had to pay up for it, but it did save me a lot of time and effort of hunting each one down.
Now, is that an absolute? I couldn't see the logo.
Prestige, 2010 Prestige. So, yeah, kind of like it. But speaking of hunting them down, so this is probably tops on my list. It's Cortland Sutton. They're all individual 101s, so there's the 6 of his rookie, all signed, auto nameplate. And so what happened was with this, and you talk about hunting down, this took me 2 years to complete. 2 years. I had all of Twitter, Instagram, Facebook searching, and the U was the last one. So I acquired the first 3 pretty quick. I hit the O, and then 6 months or so go by. I got the N, and I seriously could not. It kept me up at night. I couldn't have an unfinished thing. I was looking forever. 2 years go by, and one day about 4 a.m., my phone just started blowing up. I probably had 200 messages with social media, people texting me, dude, we saw the Suttons on eBay. You got to get out there and get it. 4 o'clock in the morning. I flew out of bed, and my wife's like, what are you doing? Is the house on fire? Is someone breaking in? I'm like, no, the U is available. The U is available. And so I paid for that U pretty quick and completed that set. So I sent this over to Cortland himself, and he thought that was pretty cool. So, yeah, that's probably obviously not the most expensive thing in the collection, but probably my favorite piece because of the story behind it and the fact that the hobby community, everyone was out there searching for it.
That's the best part. I mean,
yeah,
between the connections, and then if you're looking for something, people will always reach out to you before they sell it or anything, or even they see one of their friends are like, hey, hold on to this card for a second. I know someone's been looking for this for a while. And I know that's one of the great things since joining Twitter. Community on there, at times there's some toxic things, but it's so good. The people on there are great.
Yeah, you've got to avoid the toxic thing. I think a lot of those keyboard warriors sit home and just look for that. But the hobby is an amazing thing. People, some of my friends that I've actually never met in person, that we talk all the time, and we do a lot of gradings and stuff, and we kind of help each other out. But a lot of these guys cost me a lot of money because they know I can't turn down an NFL shield or a big time Cortland Sutton card or something. And my gosh, guys, killing me. They cost you more. They end up costing me more than my wife does, and so. But it is fun. It's a cool community. It's a bigger community than you would realize. I mean, there's a lot of people.
I avoided Twitter for a while, and then I realized, I definitely need to be on there in the connections. Yeah. It's a lot of fun with it. And I will say, guys, real quick, go follow Shawn on Twitter. It's Shawn Herring. Posts a lot of different cards on there, and then you guys can engage in the community. If you don't have a Twitter, make one.
Yep. So it is fun. I've been collecting my whole life. I took several years off. Being married, going to school, finishing up, moving around, and the last 5 or 6 years where I really got back into it. And several guys in my office are getting into it, and it's just a fun thing to do. There's nothing like ripping or breaking or hunting down something that you really want. And yeah, it's little pictures of dudes and stuff, but it's a fun thing. So
it is, and it connects people all around. I mean, now you get to meet people from different countries, meet people all across the United States, and everyone has their own story, especially on their PC like this right here, where we bring on different people and just everything in general. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, it's such a trusting community too, and such a giving community. There's so many times that people I see all the time, and someone's looking for something, maybe they can't afford it, or their kid's getting into it, and I shipped out 10,000 cards last week just randomly out to a bunch of people, and that comes back around in time. That's a fun community and to be a part of.
Absolutely. You want to show us a few more of your cards?
Yeah, let's see if we can do this. I don't know. Okay, so top shelf is more to the legends. Ed McCaffrey, Rod Smith, John Elways, Terrell Davis, those type of guys that really set the stage for the Broncos early on, and guys throughout my life that have made it fun to watch, and it's always fun to win. So Tebow, I'll go back to Tebow because my wife loves Tebow and I love Tebow. Different reasons, but we both love Tebow. I got a Philip Lindsay sneaker back there that someone sent me. Some guy just knew that I love the Broncos and Philip Lindsay, and the guys just sent me that cleat back there. So speaking of the hobby being nice, and then I got a little flawless stuff here. Let's see down there at the bottom, just some QBs and some college. There's a Patty Mahomes flawless rookie back there, and some of the other top QBs. Some stuff just kind of sitting on, and it's fun to look at time and time again. I just got a Russell Wilson. That was my first Russell Wilson. I don't know how I went this long without a Russell Wilson flawless auto, but so another side PC is guys like Taysom Hill. So being around here in Utah, we've got the Utes, we've got the BYU Cougars, and Taysom Hill's a stud. And so my wife's a hardcore BYU fan. She thinks I am. I'm not. But I do it for her. So we got a pretty good Taysom Hill PC, and starting the Zach Wilson PC. So kind of those BYU Cougar guys, and kind of bunch of, like I said, random stuff. Lots of fun stuff.
Awesome. Well, do you have any closing remarks for people about if they wanted to learn a little bit more about Broncos history or start following the team or local Utah cards?
Yeah, we got a lot of talent coming out of Utah in all sports. The Jazz are making waves. Our college teams are good and everything. And yeah, I'm always around and available if anyone has any questions about collecting in general, or investing, if you want to call it investing, but it's collecting. But I'm pretty open about things, and so if you guys hit me up on Twitter or Instagram, I'm always willing to help and share. And there's so much to learn out there. I learn from everybody, and I'm just happy to share what I got to go with.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Shawn, for being on. You guys can follow Shawn on Twitter at Shawn Herring, and then also Instagram, which is the Utah Card Exchange. Give him a follow. Has an amazing collection of Denver Broncos and Utah players. I mean, that flawless stuff was great. So thanks again. And guys, next week, we're going to be talking about vintage wrestling cards.